Okay, so I'm gonna have to make this a video again for the third time. But yeah, so I've always thought that Justin Timberlake was one of the first higher up in his list. If Martin, for those people who think they watch my videos and have no clue who I'm talking about, I believe I was a cave woman 23,000 years ago. I had a son, and that son had 120 kids, and I think that's, there was a specific order that they were born in, and I feel like I'm having a conversation through time and space on Facebook that kind of helped me know which order it was in. Justin Timberlake and Kesha, I believe, were one of the first ones and in the same group, because I used to follow them when I was younger, or before 2013 when I found out I was God. They were quite famous and people I followed, and when I met Martin, for the 3 days that I met him, he was working with those two specifically. I think Kesha was actually one of his bigger clients. Like, I think he had something on his wall with Kesha, like a disc with signature or something. But I know Kesha was one of his main artists. And Justin Timberlake, I always linked his songs to Martin and thought that they had a very similar kind of vibe or energy, and I saw similarities, and so if I was to guess which of the 120 children, because I believe most of them, almost all of them, are singers right now, because the Matrix works in a way where it looks at the genes and it tries to find souls that are most similar to that. And well, because I love singing and dancing, and this is always what I would love on every timeline. When I come down as a cave woman, okay, music doesn't exist, okay, language doesn't exist, okay, none of this exists, but these passions and stuff are still things that I would have liked if music and stuff, if songs had have existed back then. I probably did start writing songs, but I doubt they were very good. Caveman styles. But yes, I do think that the Matrix would have found the souls that are most similar, and well, if those souls were most similar back then, they are probably most similar now, and if they are most similar now to me, then they are going to be people who want to be singers and celebrities or famous or just attention seekers, because this is all the things that I kind of like. Basically the opposite of what you would expect God to like if it was the Islamic God. Islamic hates all this stuff, and well, the reason why that God hates all this stuff is because I actually love all this stuff, and that's that God is like an inversion of everything I am. But yeah, I am I believe that there's an order, and Kesha and Justin Timberlake would have definitely been some of the first in that group, because they were people that I was aware that Martin knew. I know very little about Martin because I only saw him for a couple of days, but those two, Rihanna were, and Britney Spears, were four of the people. The only things that I really know about him is that he worked with those four, and the maker of the Big Brother show, and he did Fame Academy or something, but I don't know. I never watched that, and I don't know who was on that, but I feel like that's a sign that those four were probably early. I don't know about Britney though. I mean, I think she was chosen because she was a lot of kids die when they're kids, and this is not something that God can control. It's something that happens because some parents stop being able to breastfeed, some parents can't look after their children, sometimes accidents happen, and God can't control this, but God would have looked to see the 120 children and would have looked to see how many died when they were still very young. There probably would have been a handful of them. I don't know if they count as the 120 or if maybe there was actually a lot more, but maybe there was actually 140, but 20 of them died before the age of 4, hence they're not counted. I don't really know the exact details, but I know that I think Britney Spears was someone who had most lives out of all of Martin's kids. She would have been someone who, by accident or bad luck or something, she would have been someone who died before 15 every single time, and I think that's why she was chosen, because staying young, the dream, she's angel of the people's wishes, and staying young is actually part of people's wishes. Wow, I want to be young forever. But yeah, the only way you can actually be young forever and a child forever is if you always only ever die when you're still a child, and then you'll always be a child. But it's actually a sick wish, hence why you kind of, it mixes the wishes with sick wishes, because there's a lot of people that have wishes and really they're actually sick wishes. And I think wanting to always be a child and never grow up, this is actually a sick wish, because technically when you finally do get to grow up, like Brittany has, you might find yourself having mental illness. I don't know. I would still love to believe that it's all just an act, but I feel like it's been going on way too long for me to actually believe that. So I think she has, she'll be fine one day. And anyway, going back to Kesha, I do think I had a vision of them, and I see two sort of early Homo sapien babies sitting on the laps of two Neanderthal-looking sisters. Maybe there's a year between them, I can't really tell, but they look very similar, and I do think that they're sisters, and I do see them living in the same sort of hut. There was these like huts that you just get like twigs and put them together, like that's all we had. And I think we might have had mud. We might have practiced with the whole mud building and hats. You have the twigs. I think it depends on if you're moving. If you're moving, you probably only have enough time to just grab sticks and have some sort of shelter in case it starts raining. But yeah, I think there was quite a lot of these places, because I keep finding them, and I'm wondering if this is what happened in Darla's life, that she kept finding these sort of stick buildings that the Neanderthals would build only to leave, because you can't really take a bunch of you can't take a big bunch of twigs with you, so you'd probably just leave them behind. But they were often, I think there was a lot of these sort of things being found. That's where people lived, and I think they did live in groups. Well, not groups. There would be a big group of about 40, and they'd have like a mother, and the mother would know who her children are. She might also have an idea of who the father is, and I think they were aware that they probably all had the same father, but technically the kids were very much mother orientated, and I see this image of these two sort of mothers sitting next to each other with two babies that look quite similar. And I think I feel like when I look at these children, I do see Justin and Kesha, and Kesha is the girl, the younger one, and slightly very similar, but yeah, they look too similar in age to be twins, but at the same time I think they had two different. I think he got with sisters basically, which is a typical male fantasy, to have a relationship with sisters. But it's a really bad example, and I felt the strong need to name Andrew Tate. I did not want Andrew Tate on my list, but I'm constantly seeing him, and I think he's. Angel Lucifer could be one of them, because he in this video that I watched with him, interview I watched with Bonnie Blue that he did, he kept sort of talking about the importance of having kids and procreating being the ultimate answer. It's not the ultimate answer. Lucifer's role was to have as many kids as possible, so that there would be a healthy bloodline of Darla, and bloodline is always going to come first when it comes to anyone. You put your kids first, you put your grandkids first, and if you're making a timeline, you don't want the whole timeline to be about yourself, but at the same time it's very important to make sure that you do put your own first. That's kind of how humans work. And so if Martin had 120 soul kids, those are the souls that my higher self is going to put first if they wanted to be a singer. And I think because they share similar interests to me and Darla, because it's what it's likely that they all or most of them turned into singers, even if it might have only been for a short time. Some of the singers are not some of the people on my list are not massively famous or anything, so but yeah, I think they Kesha and Justin would have been the next on my list, but I do kind of see them as being like the same time as Rihanna and Akon, but I kind of feel like it was almost a secret family, and I think that's also another sick wish that many humans have, to have to have it's not it's a typical male guy kind of fantasy to have your family and have your clan, but then to also have some sort of bit on the side with some sort of fake family to have a bit of difference. I don't know. This was a typical Lucifer type character because this is kind of what he was like back then. And yeah, I can imagine Andrew Tate being this type of person that supports this, and therefore I've named him Angel of Lucifer because I feel like Lucifer, the type of character that he was, with having 120 kids and probably many of the kids not even knowing each other because they were from different clans. You know, I think Nicki Minaj was definitely, there was two black, well, there was one which was very black, which I think was just a clan that was just passing by right when he was very young. And then they moved on and never to be seen again. And then I think there was later on another sort of mixed race clan, and I think Nicki Minaj would have been the first one born into that one, and I think Katy Perry was in a different one as well, but she was born from a leader, a leader of the clan. So as Lucifer, I'm going to call him, got older, he at the beginning I think he was first after the sort of the women that were good mothers, yeah, but also more his age. Whereas I think as he got older, he started. He did have principles, you know, finding a partner that was would make a good mother, or maybe like alpha females. I think he actually had a strong attraction towards alpha females, and finding the female that was the most challenging and stuff like this. And I feel like I feel this energy from Lucifer and the life that he would have lived. And I feel like if I think about Andrew Tate, even though I absolutely hate him and all the misogyny and arrogance, and he's got a ton of that, you know, thinking that women, that only men suffer in silence and women don't suffer in silence. If a woman's unhappy, she'll make everyone else happy because she can't suffer in silence. She has to make it known to everyone. And if your woman's life is hell, she'll make your life hell too. I mean, this is absolute total nonsense, because there are plenty of women in history who get beaten up by their partner or family members, and they do it just so that they can try and keep their, you know, do what's best for the children or for the people around them or whatever. So to think that only males suffer in silence, but women know that if they're suffering, they'll let everyone know. To think that is absolutely total crap. And yeah, he aggravated me enough for me to be like, right, you've got to be some sort of angel, because this is you've been aggravating me since the day I first started. It's like he's got a character role. On one hand, he represents masculinity and male control, and also Lucifer as well, because I feel like he had the same sort of principles and beliefs that Lucifer would. You know, I don't believe that Lucifer was out to just have 1,000 kids with people. I think he was generally trying to just find women that were a bit of a you know, at the beginning it probably would have just been the ones that were more his age and more similar to him, whereas I think as he grew up he kind of wanted more of a challenge, and so did find the alpha females more of a challenge. But that probably also pissed off the males in the other clans, and I think the other clans probably might have come to his clan to try and rape is the word to use, but at the same time, yeah, it's a terrible thing, and I'm sure it would have happened, but if both the males and the females had a high sex drive, then I feel like it wouldn't have been as bad. I don't know, it's complicated, but I feel like I'm trying to get a sense of what Kesha's life was like during with this image that I'm getting, and sort of based on the things that I'm seeing around, or the things that I'm feeling in this clan. And I feel like she had a very strong, I think she had kids with this Dylan character. I've never heard of it. I don't even know if I'm saying his name right. Daryl. So I don't know. Actually, it actually looks like Darla, and I've called him Angel of Darla's Tribe, because just listening to that Man-Eater song the other day, I felt like I was getting visions of him. Darla being about, well, in the vision he's actually 7, and Darla looks about 17 or something. Or I feel like I'm Darla at 17. I'm looking down at him, and I'm seeing a 10-year-old or a 7-year-old, or I don't know. I can't exactly. It's just like images that I'm getting, but I think he was definitely younger, a bit skinny too. But but yeah, and if Darla had a child at 12, that means he would have been about 2 years older than this guy. And then I was kind of thinking, well, if he's 2 years older, and if Darla's child started having kids, or female kids, from the age of 14, 15, 16, 17, and if he went on to have loads of them, there probably would have been quite a lot of his kids around. And I think in this environment that they were in, where females were worried about males from other clans R-wording them, I feel like this would have made them far more wanting to have partners. I'm not speaking correctly. It would have made them want to have partners that were 20 years older than them, and because they would have felt more secure, more safe. And that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from Kesh. There's this image, or this life, that I think I would call it a Neanderthal version, but technically they were the first Homo sapiens, but they still kind of acted and looked like Neanderthals. Just in the same way that sprites today have a spiritual connection, and yet many of them still act and behave like humans. So there's a sort of, if I say a Neanderthal version, I'm talking about, I could be still talking about his kids, because they still would have been half Neanderthal and just evolving. But yeah, I felt like she had a very strong, good relationship, even though there was like a 18-year age gap, and I think she started having kids from the age of 16. I think she liked that relationship because she felt a lot safer, whereas with Sophie Alispector, I think, was 2 years older than her. I felt like she actually found security in the strong female characters that were there. But yeah, I'm trying to work out like why Kesha was different. I do think she had a much higher sex drive, but then again, I do think that at around the time that she was born, I think Martin had actually had 4 kids within a 2-year period with 2 different women, and I feel like maybe this is when some of the more sexual souls were starting to be born, because it was recognizing this need that he had to want to just procreate and be like, I don't know. But if Lucifer was alive today, I know he is, but Martin is technically an evolved version. If Martin's had 10 lives since then, he's going to be a far more evolved version of Lucifer. But if Lucifer was alive today as how he was, he would have looked up to Andrew Tate and been like, wow, that is my angel, that is my guide, that is everything that I agree. And he probably would have agreed with everything about how procreation is always important, and that the world started falling apart when you gave women their votes. And no, the world actually became better when women started having votes, because this is when God said, right, finally I'm going to start helping you. Okay, I only want to help the people that are in favour of women having votes, but the only way I can help them is by helping the whole world. And therefore, the world has got better, and you've got so much more technology, but it only happened because more people were fighting for women's rights. But the people who weren't fighting for women's rights, the people who thought that it was ridiculous to give women votes, they wouldn't have a clue that the only reason why God started helping people more is because of things like women having their rights. And so what Andrew Tate was saying is completely annoying, completely aggravating, and makes me want to just like throw a brick at him or something. But at the same time, I feel like all these characters have a role, have a purpose. And if him spreading lies about how women shouldn't have got the votes, and how it should all be about men controlling, because if Bonnie Blue is the ultimate perfection of the ultimate outcome of what feminism results to, bullshit. Feminism does not result to people having thousands of sex with thousands of people in one day. That is not the ultimate result in it. It's doing what they want. And you know what? Most women do not want to have. He's so infuriating, but he's infuriating to me so much so that I have to give him an angel name, because I feel like there are a lot of people who agree with him, and I bet this Lucifer character, how Martin was 23,000 years, he would have totally agreed and looked up to this guy as some sort of hero. And I bet there's lots of people that still have this kind of Neanderthal mindset, like women shouldn't have got their votes, and children, females belong to their partner until their females belong to their fathers until the day they get married, and they belong to their partner. There's so many people that have this sick mindset, and it's so annoying, because you know, you shouldn't listen to your wife if she's an idiot, but a lot of wives are not idiots. You shouldn't have a wife that's an idiot. If you've got a wife that's an idiot, it's not because she's female. No, it's because you have chosen a person that is an idiot, and there is plenty of male idiots just as much as there are plenty of female idiots. You know, to think that only males should you know, work, and only females should look after kids, well, that completely doesn't work in my sister's case, because she's not able to look after her own kids. If it would have all been down to my sister being the mother, well, the social services would never have given her kid back. So she's you know, she's got quite a feminine partner, yes, but he's not. He's a masculine partner, but he's a very good motherly kind of figure. He's very caring, very sharing, and you know, the world needs men that are good mothers. Why? Because these kids that have bad mothers are going to end up in social services. You know, some women cannot look after kids, and it's got nothing to do with their sex. It's just Sophie. No, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know. Unevolved is the word, but I don't know. Anyway, I want to say that yes, I think Lucifer was a terrible example for how people should be, but at the same time there are a lot of people like him, and thinking about Lucifer makes me, and then linking it to Andrew Tate, makes me realise that Andrew Tate does have a purpose, because there's quite a lot of people that would look up to him. And yes, I still want to throw a brick at him though, but I'm going to include him onto my angel list. Just don't give me a brick if I meet him. If I was in that interview, I would really I would really want to just feel like such a need to just like, actually I'm God, and if women hadn't had the vote, I wouldn't have given you nothing, because that would have been my vote, to keep you in the dark ages until you learn to not be so sexist. And regardless to whether or not you want me to have the vote, I don't give a shit. I'm God. I would. Anyway, let's move on from that. What else do I want to say? I want to stop the video and